What if the moment you feel ready is actually the moment you are already late to your own life? This is Aries Decan 1, active from March 21st to March 30th, ruled by a double dose of Mars. This period of time is seasonal and collective energy tied to the spring equinox and yearly reset. Everyone feels this surge because everyone has Aries somewhere in their chart. We are part of a living and responsive Earth system. Humans feel these cycles, whether or not they are aware of them. At the spring equinox, the Earth shifts into an active and rising cycle. The ground begins to stir. Animals everywhere feel this surge in their bodies through movement and instinct, and the drive toward new life. This is powerful energy. It marks the birth of the zodiac and is symbolized by Aries the ram. In this video, 3 symbolic tarot energies are explained following the Golden Dawn attribution system. The Tower represents Mars as sudden and explosive force. The Emperor represents Aries as structured and commanding authority. The Two of Wands represents Mars and Aries as personal and directional will. Let's wind back now to the card of the Tower. This is the planet Mars in its most raw and devastating form. It is the moment a stable and trusted system is struck by sudden and violent force. Think of a global and historic stock market crash that wipes out value and confidence overnight. Think of a massive and destructive storm that tears through cities and power grids. The Tower represents a secured system that reflects stable and accepted order. The lightning represents a sudden and overwhelming strike that exposes hidden and structural weakness. It forces immediate and permanent change. Next, the card of the Emperor is associated with Aries. A rigid and armored figure sits on a structured and elevated throne. They represent authority built through will and maintained through discipline. The Emperor is the 4th card in the tarot deck. The number 4 signifies stable and grounded structure. 4 marks a square and ordered foundation, the 4 directions and defined territory. It is the point where raw and initiating force becomes fixed and organized form. In modern terms, this appears as a venture capitalist making bold and strategic bets on disruptive technology. It also appears as a commanding and decisive leader, shaping industries and directing outcomes. More traditionally, it appears as a military general directing a coordinated and large-scale operation, or a high-level CEO making consequential decisions that affect thousands. Powerful and influential politicians appear here, setting firm and binding policies that shape collective behavior. These are considered emperor figures because they establish order through clear and enforced rules. Aries season opens with the Two of Wands, called Dominion in the Golden Dawn system. Dominion means control or command over people and land and direction. A solitary and watchful figure stands between 2 upright staffs. He holds a small and symbolic globe while facing a distant and open horizon. Together, these 3 cards describe a complete and dynamic Mars cycle. Start with Dominion, Mars and Aries, the first of 3 zodiacal fire signs, pure ignition, focused will. Those crossed forms in the Thoth Tarot are dorjes, ritual thunderbolts from Indian and Tibetan tradition, used in ceremony and symbolizing indestructible force. Then the Tower, the planet Mars, the strike, lightning, shock, impact, force breaking through and tearing down what can't hold. And then the Emperor, the aftermath, the one who takes control and becomes the new ruler, power organized into a new order. One current moving through all 3, force that ignites, disrupts, and then establishes the next paradigm. In astrology, Aries rules the 1st house, the human head, and is represented by the ram. The 1st house is the domain of personal and immediate identity. It is often called the house of I am. It governs how a person begins action and claims identity in a visible and undeniable way. It shows the first impression and living presence that others encounter. In other words, the 1st house is the house of personality. Historically, both Aries and Mars has been associated with the god of war since the 8th century BCE. The message of Mars is unmistakable and immediate. Mars does not wait. Mars does not negotiate. Mars acts. When Mars rules both the sign and the decan, the energy becomes concentrated and amplified. This reflects a patriarchal and hierarchical mindset rooted in early and martial structures. It is about surveying land and claiming position. Think of astronauts planting a flag on the moon. Mars demands courage. Without direction, motion becomes scattered. With direction, motion becomes conquest. Most people will not use this force in a literal or military context. Instead, it expresses itself through leadership and executive roles, as well as in startup and entrepreneurial ventures. It can be symbolized by a trained and responsive officer acting under pressure, or a bold, independent traveler seeking new terrain and new experiences. Much of this energy historically plays out through expansion into foreign and distant lands. This is how Mars becomes constructive rather than destructive. It becomes directed and intentional effort rather than reactive and chaotic force. This is the energy of someone who says, I will try one thing, and then accidentally builds an entire empire before lunch. If you want to conquer tarot and astrology education, stake your claim and secure your dominion. Subscribe or explore the full Aries playlist on Intelligent Perspectives YouTube channel.